What's going on, guys? Welcome to episode 11. We're going to be talking with Karl here, who is Tactical Rifleman. You guys might know him. We're going to talk about what it takes to be a Green Beret on this week's episode of Warfighter Wednesday. We're good. What's going on, guys? All right, so we got Karl here. A ton of you guys always ask us. I'm sure that you get it too. Hey, Karl, what does it take to be a Green Beret? How do I get through selection? What should I do to prepare for it? All these questions, and it's always like, it's always the same thing over and over and over. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's a lot to it. It's not an easy subject. They still have the 18 X-ray program right now? Yep. They do. All right, so right now you can go be a Green Beret right off the street. Now, the 18 X-rays have a very high failure rate. The ones that do the best usually got about 2 years of college under their belt, a little more mature. They did a similar program back in Vietnam when they were short Green Berets. But in general, when you're not short Green Berets, how it used to be is you had to be an E5 in the regular Army, just at least depending on sergeant. And what that did was everybody that came to an A team, now you're still doing 2 years of schooling, you're learning your MOS, your particular specialty. For example, I started out as an SF medic, and then you've got your weapons guys, your combat engineers, your commo guys and everything. But because we were E5s, because we were sergeants in the Army, you're bringing all that other Army knowledge and experience with you. Now, I knew back when I was in junior high school when I saw the original movie with John Wayne in it.
Okay.
I knew right then and there I was going to be a Green Beret. Now, my son made it all the way through college and still didn't know what he wanted to do with his life. So I was kind of blessed knowing, hey, that's what I want to do. But it had to be E5 in the regular Army first. So I actually chose to go infantry simply because I wanted to be a great Green Beret from the get-go. And to be a great Green Beret, you've got to have, you got to be tactically sound. So infantry, great place to do that. I knocked out, I started out in a recon platoon and just went up from there. Ranger school, a couple of different sniper schools. I got my expert infantryman's badge, my CIB, all that stuff, blah, blah, blah. So I brought that, but the cool part was not just infantry. My A team, when I first got to my first A team, I had a guy there that was a diesel mechanic in the regular Army. I had guys there that were artillery. I had guys there that were LURS D. So even though he was a combat engineer, when my commo guy got laid up bad and couldn't deploy with us, he had a LURS D background. I had a recon background. So using communication stuff was easy for us. We brought all that to the table, and that's one fault that the 18 X-rays don't have, is they're not falling back on that past regular Army experience, bringing it together. So
let's talk on that really quick. So the 18 X-ray program is for new recruits going into the Army that allows them to go through basic training, and it's one unit station training. So you go in as infantry, right?
Yep.
And it gives you a guaranteed opportunity to go to selection.
Yep.
Right? If you do not make it to selection, the Army then decides, hey, wherever you are needed, that is where you're going to go. So it's a pretty big gamble if you don't come into this prepared.
So that brings us to the next step. You've got to be prepared. Now, again, I can't stress enough, you need to be mature before you go Special Forces. The reason why I say that is I self-evaluate, I realize the faults that I have, and one of my major faults was I was a juvenile delinquent. I was not ready. I had free tuition at the University of Connecticut, was accepted, everything. I was not ready for college. College was not ready for me. But even when I first got in the military, I was a juvenile delinquent. I was not ready to be a Green Beret, because a Green Beret, yeah, it's a 12-man A team, but a lot of times I would deploy groups of 2 or 3 guys doing site surveys and all these close target recce's and all this other stuff. And a lot of times you deploy civilian clothes to another country, let's say Jordan. Yeah, it's peacetime mission, but you're still in a semi-permissive environment. You're staying in hotels, yes, but there's only 4 westernized hotels in Amman, Jordan. 3 of them have been bombed, and we would move around. Now, 3-man team, you can't be a juvenile. You can't need to be led. You have to be able to be a leader, and the government, the American public, needs to be able to trust you to do that. So yeah, you're traveling to the embassy every day, you're checking your red side emails, but you have to be mature enough to be trusted to work 1, 2, 3-man teams. And I was not ready to do that. You as a Green Beret, we say quiet professional, yes, but at the same time, you're an ambassador. You are a representative for the United States government to the host nation units, but also the host nation government. A lot of times we would interact with VIPs, presidents, kings. My first time meeting the King of Jordan, he was major. He was a major in his dad's 71st CT, which was their counterterrorism unit in Jordan. So back when it was King Hussein, King Abdallah was back then Major Abdallah, and he was a major in the unit. You know, he was still, everybody knew he was going to be the king, but the reality was he at the time was still just a prince. You interact with these people, and if you burn that bridge simply because you're drinking a little too much, no, it just doesn't work. You're damaging not just the unit, but you're creating international incidences, and we don't need that out there. So I can't stress being mature enough. If you're not, go check all the other blocks. Get your military experience in the infantry, in the Rangers, any other MOS, and then once you're determined to be mature enough, then go take the long walk. Go be a Green Beret.
So there's a lot more to it than just being good at rucking and shooting good. A guy that's in the infantry is like, man, I'm killing it at the infantry. Maybe I'll, fuck around and try out and stuff like that. Are you saying that you need to be on a whole nother level for that before you should even think about that?
If you're already in the military, ask your chain of command. Now, there's a lot of guys, a lot of senior sergeants that will tell you, do not go special forces, don't do it. But a lot of them either failed selection or they're, for whatever reason, they don't believe in unconventional warfare, let's say. But if you find a sergeant who's honest and understands you've got what it takes to be a Green Beret, ask him honestly, hey, Sergeant, in your view, am I mature enough to go to selection right now to be a Green Beret? If I was going to represent you, am I mature enough? And he may say, yeah, brother, go take the walk. Or he may say, why don't you wait a little bit? Why don't you try to get these other schools under your belt? Because the reality is, if you're still at that stage in your life where you're dating strippers and you've missed 6 payments on your car, you're not ready. You're not ready to take on the responsibilities of 300 people's lives underneath you.
Plus, it's a huge pipeline. It's long.
Big,
you figure you're at least, 2 years? 2-year pipeline?
2 years, easy. And it's a big pool of people also. So you go to selection, you're going to have hundreds of people in your selection class. As soon as you get there, they knock out the PT test, they knock out the swim test. Now, because of certain people's backgrounds, they say, well, we're not going to make the swim test mandatory to start off with. You've just got to pass it by the end. But the reality is, guys, if you can't make all the standards, you need to be preparing yourself before you go, because you're already, even though they're not going to fail you for failing the swim test per se, it's a mark against you. Mm-hmm. It's like, man, we've got 400 guys, we've got 600 guys. However many people show up for that particular selection class for that particular time, it may be a time where there have not been a lot of casualties overseas. We may not need that many operators this particular selection class. So and they're not going to tell you that. They're not going to say, hey, we only need 113 guys, or we may need 250. They're not going to tell you. They're going to tell you, do the best you can. Every run you go on, every road march you go on, you're going to ask, well, how far is it? Do the best you can. Well, how much time do I have? Do the best you can. That's what they're going to do to you. So you need to be prepared. After you knock out the initial and processing, all that stuff, they take you out to Camp McCall. And basically the first week is, or at least selection was when I went through 100 years ago, is your individual time. So how they evaluate you is basically land navigation, right? But it's not really hard land nav. And a lot of people don't know land nav. I had the extreme advantage of all my time in the infantry was in a recon platoon. I didn't just do map and compass. I knew terrain association. I could travel in the dark as easily as I could travel during the day. I was very confident with my land nav abilities. Not so to the people to my left and right. So they started off, they set you up for success. They're going to give you classes on land navigation, how to use a compass, how to use a map, the grid reference system, but they also do lat longs. They do all of this, and they'll show you how to do your pace count and everything else. And when they finally give you the land nav, you're actually allowed to walk on the sandy roads. You are, or you can, more than welcome to take shortcuts through the woods. Now, if you walk the roads, it might be anywhere from a 6 to a 12-mile movement from point to point. If you go straight line through the woods, you can usually cut that in half. However, if you don't know how to read a map and terrain association, you look at those contour lines, it might be a straight line, but it may be cliffs, ravines, draws, and some of those draws there in North Carolina, they call them dinosaur land for a reason. This shit is thick. No big deal. So long as you know how to read those contour lines, I'd be like, brother, I'm so cutting across this, and I'm going to shave 10 Ks off today, piece of cake. And I'd be that first guy to show up. You get to that last point. You never know if it's your last point.
Because it's point sitter, right?
It's points. You get there and there's a guy sitting there, and you give him your roster number. Okay, here's your next point. He gives it to you. You plot it, and off you go again. When you get to your last point, instead of him giving you a next point, he just says, all right, go sit over there, build a fire. And or at least they did for me. I went through in the wintertime and build a fire, keep warm, eat your next MRE, whatever. And then more guys would start coming in. But there were other times where I'd look at that map and I'd be like, there's no way I could get through that stuff in the dark or even during the day. And I'd be like, all right, I'm going to take the road. And I'd still be one of the first ones there. And while you'd be moving, you'd hear guys out in the woods stuck in that ravine.
Oh, really?
Help! Their rucksack would get all stuck and shit, and you'd lose guys. You really would. That's now the whole time you're doing that week. You've got it's mostly land nav. Now they wake you up. You do PT in the morning. Sometimes it's road marches. Sometimes it's runs. You've got everything on a run that is anything from 3-mile run all the way up to, I think the longest run's like 9 miles, and you never know which run it is. So the instructors, they would say, you'd ask, hey, is this the 5-mile run? Is this the 3-mile run? What is this? And the instructors would say, do the best you can. And here's a good point on this is a little vignette. You guys will laugh your ass off how much of a dumbass I was. I had a guy standing next to me who had recycled. This was his second time doing selection, which should have told me, don't listen to this guy. But he elbowed me. He's like, hey, man, this is the 3-mile run. I'm like, awesome. So I know, because I want to impress the instructors, I'm going to bust my heart. I'm going to run as fast as I can. I was in a recon platoon. I was in awesome shape. This is what I want to do. I need to impress the instructors. They start the stopwatch. Everybody takes off running. Within the first 200 meters, I am way out front, except I got one guy in front of me, the skinny little white kid. He's
always the fastest.
It's always.
I mean, this guy's taking off, and I'm like, I'm not going to let this kid beat me. I'm pushing. Now, you wind these roads in Camp McCall, and I'm like, we're coming up on that 2-mile mark. All right, so I know I'm almost there. I come up on the next one. Maybe it's a 3-mile run. Where is the trucks? Where's the finish line? We hit the 3-mile mark. We hit the 4-mile mark. And I'm like pushing and I'm pushing. Now remember, I'm doing my 2-mile speed, pushing myself, even though I knew it was 3 miles. Except now I'm still pushing the same speed and we're well over 5 miles. And we finally come around a corner and there's all the trucks, all the instructors and everything. And I see that kid in front of me cross the line. I find out afterwards that little son of a gun was on the Army track team, by the way. All right, so there's no way I was going to catch that little monkey. All right, but I see Dr. Death, the medic, pulls up with his red Suburban, and he's about 100 feet past the finish line. I see him open his door. And I see him get out of the truck, and all the instructors there, and I'm pushing. I'm going to finish hard. I'm going to finish hard. And all of a sudden, it got black around the edges. And it's like, and all of a sudden, I open up my eyes, because I only blinked for a second. But when I opened up my eyes, I was laying on the ground in front of that red door on the Suburban. I had like 4 instructors standing around me, and they're like, you all right? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine, perfectly fine. I did great on the run. I was the second finisher. Yeah, didn't really impress the instructors real hard on that. But anyways, yeah, it wound up being like the 7-mile run, and I ran it at my 2-mile pace. So you don't have to be first, is what I'm saying. Don't be last, right? But don't try to spotlight others because it might bite you in the tail. I lucked out. But I could have crashed hard. And
so go as hard as you can, but don't expect an end. Just keep going. Exactly. Just keep going, because you're not going to. They're not going to tell you when to stop.
Exactly. So, now road marches, same things. Now you pretty well know the last road march is the 25-mile road march, but you got to be smart about it. One of my biggest tips to give people for going to selection is prepare your feet. Now, that sounds easy. Everybody thinks you need to go out and just road march hard. You need to do 25-mile road marches. No, you don't. You need to have 100 pounds. No, you don't. Your rucksack is going to weigh 45 pounds before your water, and then you've got your rubber duck and everything, right? Go out with a light pack. If you're not used to rucking, go out and ruck until you get hot spots on your feet, until you start to feel yourself starting to get blisters. Before you get those blisters, stop. Right? And what you'll see is you'll be able to identify on your feet where you're going to get blisters. Now, the advantage of this, now remember, I had that recon background, so my feet were leather, right? Surely Karl's never going to get a blister. Yes, except literally like 3-4 days before selection, my unit in 101st, we were out and my recon team got rolled up. My hide sight got rolled up. The OP4 caught my rucksack, my guys. It was me living out of my LBE with my radio, following this unit for like 5 days, and it rained cats and dogs. I'm in the same pair of wet boots and socks for 5 days. Trench foot, all the calluses sloughed off of my feet. Completely. I went to selection with virgin baby feet, so surely I'm screwed. No, because here's why. I knew my feet that well. I knew where I get my hot spots, across there and across the palm, the back of my foot. So what I did was I brought a whole roll of moleskin with me. I brought an extra pair of penny cutter scissors, and I would cut a shape the size of my heel, and 2 of them. I'd put 1 on each heel, and I cut a curved part for the ball of my foot, and I put it on each foot every morning. And then when I switched socks or at lunch, I put another piece on. I went through half that roll of moleskin. What I did was I basically was using the moleskin I was using it as calluses on my feet. Right? It's not just for going around blisters. You've got to catch it before you get blisters. So know your feet, 1, but 2, have boots that are well broken. That sounds easy. Everybody knows that when everybody checks that block. Here's a tip for selection. get an extra pair of boots. And what I did was I had a set of winter jungle boots. Basically, I had my jungle boots I wore most of the year, and then my winter ones were actually 1.5 sizes, 1.5 sizes too big. And I wore them in the wintertime because that gave me room for all my thick insulated socks, if that makes any sense. Now, they'll tell you to bring 2 pair of well-broken boots to selection. Yes, and I had like 5 pair of broken boots. I brought 1 pair that was broken real well, and I brought my winter boots that were too big for my feet. Sounds stupid, right? Because your feet are going to float in them. No. You're going to put in so many miles in selection that your feet are going to swell, and they're going to swell. And there's nothing you can do about it. Your feet are going to swell. I saw guys in selection that could not get their feet into their boots, and they would actually cut open the heels or the toes of their boots to let room for their feet to swell out. Now, you're walking through beach sand at Camp McCall on all the roads. So picture desert or jungle boots cut open, and now you're walking in the sand in socks with feet that are already swollen up. What's that going to do? Now it's like sandpaper. So you would see guys in desert boots, and these things were rusty brown from blood. They're trying to tape them shut with duct tape to keep the sand from getting in. And don't get me wrong, these guys were hard as nails. They would fight, they'd keep going one more day. But the reality is, I'm walking there with not even my first blister yet. And the guy standing next to me can't even wear his shower shoes to go to the bathroom because his feet are just total hamburgers. He's limping along. He's got 6 more days of selection.
What was it for you? Was it 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
Three now. Yeah, now it's 3.
It was actually 3 weeks, I think. A couple days at the beginning. The second phase was team week. You make it through your first part. You get into team week, and basically, they don't care how tough you are. They don't care if you're a leader. They care, can you work as a team? Now that sounds easy. But you get guys that they start getting mad at each other because some guys are not helping with other stuff. And they do like weird little tasks for you to do. They'll give you sand babies, for example. Sand babies are basically 300 sandbags, and your 12-man group has got to move all your sandbags from one spot to another spot. Now, I wanted to be hard, so I would put 3 sandbags on top of my rucksack, hang my rubber duck by its sling, my M16, and then I'd carry 1 sandbag in each arm and tough through it. And I would go there, drop them off, and I'd be running back, and I'd see people that have like one on their shoulder and 1 in each hand. And like they carried 3, I carried 5. But they're able to move a lot faster, and I'm burning myself out. Mm-hmm. I'm wanting to cuss at them. Why aren't you guys harder? But at the same time, there's a balance between smarter and harder. These guys are being smarter about it. Work together as a team, decide. Sandman sounds very similar. It is, except it's a duffel bag filled with sand. We're talking like 300 pounds. This thing was insane. They give you a bunch of metal poles, lashings, and what you end up doing is, if you know how to tie lashings, the advantages of being a good Boy Scout as a kid, I knew how to lash things together. So now you got 4 guys, and you got it up over your shoulders. Now, out of your group, if 2 sandmen to move, and you've got to move these things kilometers, that's 8 guys. What are your other guys doing in your team? Are they standing to the side? What are they doing? And what you do is you learn, well, we need to rotate out. We need to take turns resting. And the messed up part was I was paired up with a little guy, short guy. He was on the other side. So when we first put it up onto our shoulders, all the lashings were tight. And I'm wanting to cuss him because all the weight's on my shoulders. It's barely touching his ruck. I held my tongue. I didn't complain. The looser things get, remember we had to move this thing kilometers, the poles start to loosen up. Now the pole's down on his rucksack, all the weight has slid into his side, and now he's cussing me out. Mm-hmm. And the instructors are seeing it. You don't see the instructors. They're not going to tell you, hey, quit bitching. The instructors, everything they do. So work together as a team, and just small things like that. Selection's easy, guys. Selection was a cakewalk. Yeah, it was. Go there, be in shape before you go, be humble, but by all means, be in shape. And you can find out, you can go look up online what these standards are for selection, swim test, everything else.
Yeah, swim test, what, 50 meters? 50 meters in boots?
Uniform and boots.
Yep.
Now, I learned in Ranger School, that's easy. Jump into the pool real quick and start swimming, and your uniform actually holds pockets of air. Keeps you afloat, you can move no problem. Yeah, they didn't let you do that in selection.
Nope.
They made you get in and then sit there, and they waited till all the air was out of your uniform. And it was the longest 50 meters for me, but no big deal. No, you can do it. You can do it.
So what would you say, going back to the whole maturity side of special forces in general, not just selection, what would you say to the kid that, not like the Call of Duty kid, like, oh, I can do this, special forces, but the kid's like, I'm doing military, no doubt. I just want to be in the military. This is what I'm doing. Would you say for him, go talk to a recruiter, be like, I want special forces, that's what I want to do, or would you say, he's an 18-year-old kid, he's got plenty of time, plenty of years left to get some experience. Would you say, just do your infantry for like 5 or 6 years or something like that, or try some other schools, and then we can talk about special forces?
Honestly, I would. I'd recommend you wait. Yeah. And here's why. Even if you pass selection, and then pass language school, and then you make it all the way through all your schooling, and you walk across that stage and you get that Green Beret. You gotta remember, I retired as company sergeant major of a SIF company, all right, for 5th Special Forces Group. I had 6 A teams underneath me, but I also was surrounded by all these other sergeant majors. I got to see all the A teams in group, and what I saw was a lot of the 18 X-rays that would show up the group. Now, these guys are full of piss and vinegar. They want to do great things. They want to get out there and deploy. Even the ones that have passed and they've made it, you've made it all the way to group.
Going to a B team.
Brother, no, you're not going to B team. They're going to an A team, but a lot of them, because they don't have that military background, they don't have military bearing, they don't have the time spent going to formations and knowing how to march and knowing yes sir, no sir, 3 bags full, knowing all this other stuff, all the things that everybody else in the military takes for granted. Other than school, all that they have, that's all they have. They have nothing else. And what we find is they have a high failure rate. And by failure rate, I mean sleeping with other guys' wives, getting DUIs, because you, like it or not, when you get your Green Beret, guys, you are a rock star. You deploy overseas and you've got all these Air Force units that have got like buckets of vaginas. They just throw them at you. They're literally walking up saying, excuse me, would you like my vagina? Right? So you are literally a rock star overseas. You are. Now, that gets young guys into trouble. It does. I'm coming up on my 28th wedding anniversary, but I had a lot of guys on my A team that were on their 3rd or 4th or 5th marriage. Now, these are guys that have been Green Berets for quite a while. Those young guys that show up, those 18 X-rays, if they immediately show up and start screwing up, Command Sergeant Majors up at Starfleet Command, they do not tolerate that at all. And I have seen guys lose their tabs. That was something that was completely unheard of. You basically had to get in trouble for stealing a tank and getting a DUI with it, right? And then they still usually wouldn't take your your tab and your beret from you. They just, they'd make you back to an E6 again. Now they encourage you to steal Jeeps from the MPs in Vietnam, right? But I've watched guys have their tabs pulled, and from there you're going to the regular Army, and you can't go to the regular Army and then throw your Green Beret or your Special Forces tab back on. It is not a badge. It is an award with a set of orders, and that set of orders can be revoked. Right? It's not like Air Assault School wings. It's not. Now, they can't take your airborne wings from you. They can't take that from you, but they will all about pull that tab from you if you screw up. So, again, take your time with it. don't be in a hurry, because the global war on terror is not going anywhere. No matter how much people are in a hurry to get shot at, I'm here to tell you, when I did the initial invasion of Afghanistan, and we were blowing open the doors in the caveman houses over there, the kids that were there sitting next to mama in the burqa, those kids right now are 18, 19, 20 years old, and they're the guys shooting the AKs at the next generation of warfighters. And they are continuing to make more babies over there. So the global war on terror is not going anywhere. It's not. Take your time, do it right. And, just understand, guys, it was the best job in the world, better than a porn star, being a Green Beret. I would not have traded it for nothing. All right. Yes, serving my country, but no, I loved it. I wouldn't have traded it. But you have to understand, it is a big, big sacrifice, and there's a lot that goes to it. It's not just stepping off the ramp of the airplane at 27,000 feet. Yes, I've got hundreds of jumps, but there's so much more to it than that. There's so much more to it.
And it's not just sacrifices on you too. If you got a wife and kids, you're constantly rotating out, man. What is it? Every 3-6 months, you're so there's a lot of things, like Karl said, you got to take into consideration. You know, when you're doing that, because that ultimately is huge. You know what I mean? That's everything.
Without a doubt.
So just to recap, we got get your feet ready, okay? Get your PT up. You got selection. Selection, I believe now is 3 weeks. It used to be 2 weeks. They bumped it up to 3 weeks. So the National Guard, I was going to talk about that. So the National Guard has a SFAS, right? It's a Special Forces Assessment and Selection. What they do there is you could be prior service Army, you could be active duty Army, Marine, you could be anything. They'll let you come with your unit's permission to come and do an assessment, right? So it's a weekend deal. They'll put you through PT tests. They'll do like a mock land navigation, all that stuff. If you pass this, right, you will get temporary orders, and you will go on that company's books, and you will stay with that company for 6 to 9 months, and they will train you up to get you ready for selection. And the National Guard, last time that I was told about it, they have like almost an 80% pass rate at selection. Awesome. Because they do that, right? So the active duty guys started doing that now. At Campbell, they got that big whole thing where units are actually starting to train guys up to get them ready for.
Doug, I heard that. Brother.
What did he say?
He's upset that he's not allowed to date strippers. I didn't say you're not allowed to date strippers, just no marrying strippers. No marrying strippers.
Yeah, that was my next question. Do you think the average like infantry gives you any type of preparation for being in special forces, or do you have to be like normal Army?
Regular Army. And all I can speak for is I was in the 101st, spent a little bit of time in 2nd ID. It really varies by unit, because some units you'll get, there'll be NCOs there that are dead set against, they don't believe in special ops, they're hard set on conventional warfare, and they will not support you. But then on the flip side, I was very fortunate. I had a battalion command sergeant major that was it was an old nutcase in Vietnam. I think he had like 2 confirmed kills with an E-tool and 1 confirmed kill with, catch this, with heat tabs. He was torturing a guy for information with heat tabs that you could heat your coffee with, and he accidentally killed the guy. He was a total nutcase. I love him to death. He supported me going to selection. He thought I did not belong in the regular Army. But a lot of the other NCOs, non-commissioned officers around me, they did not think I needed, they didn't encourage anybody to go SF at all. So it does, it varies by unit. 82nd is big on some people doing it. Ranger battalions, they are the #1 selection pool for Delta. 80% of the guys of Delta are pulled from the Ranger battalions.
And they have totally changed too. Ever since they actually were like taken under SOCOM now, it's like been.
Yeah.
And that happened what started the global war on terror.
Yeah.
Yep. And another thing too, as he was saying, as this 2-year pipeline, now keep in mind, right, if you go into this, I think you have to be an E4 to go to selection. Maybe, might be an E3, right? But I'm pretty sure
I think it's E4 promotable. At least it was back in the day.
Okay, so once you graduate and you get your Green Beret, I'm pretty sure you're E6 at that point.
You're E5 promotable. So basically, as soon as you show up at your unit, you quickly go to the promotion board. And usually the promotion boards for SF are a joke, though not always. And simply because the promotion boards for me were a joke, because I had spent all that time in the conventional military and I knew the answers to a lot of this stuff. But you'd be surprised, a lot of the younger Green Berets, they don't know the answers to simple questions. Maximum effective range of the M240 machine gun in grazing fire mode. Come on, spit this out, operator. Come on. See, the easy stuff for me, but if you're that young commo guy who just got out of selection, just got his Green Beret, he doesn't know the answer to this stuff. So you have to study. No big deal. It's a test. It's like everything.
Answer to that. 1200, 13.
Oh, God.
Oh, that's called on the spot. Hey,
I think it's 12.
What's the oldest?
I think it is.
No, I say grazing fire.
What is the oldest?
Grazing fire is where you can keep it between ankles and height of the body.
So probably about.
He's doing ballistics right now. It doesn't matter whether you're right or wrong. What it matters is what is written down in the book, in the manual for the staff sergeant promotion board. That literally, you don't have to be correct. You have to know what the answers are to the questions in the book. So if there's a typo in the book, you need to know the typo.
Also, that the board doesn't have to be just on military stuff. I was asked in a board what the coach's name was for the Alabama football team, and I'm like,
that's when you know you're good.
You're like, you're just like, okay.
They'll ask you like current events, things like that.
Go ahead and say it. Roll Tide. What is the age of the oldest selected / graduate?
You know, I honestly have no idea.
Cutoff is 36.
Guy.
Cutoff is 36, so it'd have to be what, 38?
Yeah, probably. I know a guy, and he was actually from one of the reserve groups. I can't remember his name. He passed selection. He passed the first part of the Special Forces medic course, which back then it was at San Antonio. You go do your internship at the hospital. After that, you go to Med Lab at Fort Bragg. Me and him and 3 other guys were the only ones to make it to Fort Bragg first time through to Med Lab. All the other medics recycled back. No, I take that back. There were 9 of us. Out of those 9, only 5 of us, 5 medics, walked across the stage first time through. Everybody else recycled back. He was one of the ones that made it to Med Lab, and he recycled at Med Lab, stayed like the extra 3-4 months, and I want to say he was dirt old. This boy was old as shit, so he had to be like 35. You got to remember, I was in my 20s, right? So this guy seemed like he was 100 years old to me. He had to, I want to say he was 35. He recycled, and then he didn't pass. They sent him back regular Army. Once he failed the second time at Med Lab. And the reason why, because that's a waste, right? You got a guy that's been in school for 4 years. No, it's not a waste, because here's the deal. He failed trauma. He didn't have what it takes to do knee-deep trauma, multi-system failure, occluded airways with burns, gunshot wounds, lacerations, traumatic amputations, all on one live patient. And it's not for everybody. It's not. So the way they look at it is Special Forces didn't lose a Special Forces medic. The regular Army gained a overly qualified field medic. So we sent to the regular Army a squared away medic. And this guy knew his stuff. He did. He really did. He just hiccuped a few times on the clock. You've got the grade sheet, yes, but it's a living patient. And if your patient dies, you don't pass, no matter whether you checked every block.
Correct.
So it is what it is. So
do you get to pick your MOS? Or did they ask you, like, what would you like to be?
Yes, they ask you. They ask you. For example, all right, now, I already had Ranger School. I had my infantry background, recon. I had 3 sniper schools under my belt already. Obviously, I'm going to be a weapons sergeant. It makes total sense. Obviously, I'm going to be a weapons. No. My GT score was 125. So
they
what
figured
they
you could
said
shoot.
was the guys with the crayons, they get to go be weapons. I was like, they're like, you're going to be a medic. And I'm like, I don't want to be a medic. I want to be weapons. They're like, well, you can be a medic or you can go needs of the Army. Like, medics lead the way. Now, that being said, all I knew is I didn't want to be commo. I didn't want to be communications because I woodpeckers and Morse code and all that stuff. I can't stand that stuff.
Was that a Fox did?
Echo. 18 Echo is the commo guys. I didn't want to be a commo guy, so I wanted to be weapons first. Then I wanted to be the combat engineer. I wanted to blow stuff up. After that, the only thing left would be medic, and then commo would be my last choice. Now they picked medic for me. Now this is divine intervention. You got to understand, God's not always going to give you what you want. God's going to give you what you need. Here's the deal. I like trauma. 1, I like the taste of blood. 2, and 3, I hate not being able to help. If I come up on a car wreck, I want to be able to help. If one of my buddies gets shot on the range or in the shootouts, which is a 360-degree range, by the way, I want to be able to help. So when an accident happens, me being the Special Forces medic, I'm knee deep in it. Meanwhile, the weapons guy's pulling security and the commo guy, he's calling on the radio. Until the fight is over with, everybody on the team is a weapons guy. Everybody's fighting till the fighting's done. Then the commo guy calls it in, the medic's patching people up, the engineer's putting the charges to blow up the bridge. But until that point, everybody's weapons. Now, diff company background, breaching, everything from walls to doorknobs, picking locks, everything. If you've been to a lot of my classes, whether it's down at Tier 1 group or wherever, I have taught breaching classes to German SEALs, to the Dutch CT guys, all kinds of units. I can teach explosive breaching because I work with, our old master breacher at Tier 1 group was CAG's master breacher for a few years, Don Hollenbaugh, great guy. I know explosive breaching. I know explosives very well. Matter of fact, I'm teaching an explosive breaching class the second week of December. How do I know this stuff? I know it because on a Special Forces A team, the commo guy, the medic, the engineer, the weapons guy, we all cross-train, right? So the only thing I wouldn't know about radios, the commo guy, he knew the specifics for wave propagation and cutting antennas and Morse code. The engineer would know certain, the Carver matrix for doing site surveys and but other than that, explosive breaching formulas, we had to know that. Everybody knew how to calculate net explosive weight, minimum safe distance. Everybody knew how to do that. When it came to the weapons, we all had to learn everything except for how to use the ballistic computer for the mortars and the artillery. That was just for the weapons guy, but everything else was cross-trained. Everybody on my team learned tactical combat casualty care. Everything from tourniquets to chest tubes, a little bit of everything. We would do live tissue with the whole team because who's going to get shot? It's going to be me. I'm going to be the first one to get plugged. Thankfully, I wasn't. But you plan for that. You plan worst case scenario and you cross-train everybody on your team. My point for dragging all that out, yes, Doug, I'm long-winded, is that just because you don't get the MOS that you wanted, don't fret, man. You're still getting to wear that Green Beret. and you're still getting ready to, you're still going to walk across the stage, and you're going to become part of a team that is not beat out by anything else on the planet.
And you're still cross-trained, so you're still going to learn it
You're going
anyway.
to get to learn everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
So Karl keeps talking about a CIF company. Why don't you explain that?
CIF, C-I-F stands for the Sinks in Extremis Force. It's an old term. It's actually been replaced by what they call a CRIF now, a Crisis Response Force. Everybody understands Delta, even though Delta doesn't exist. You all got that. Delta doesn't exist, even though Chuck Norris made the movie back in the 70s. All right.
I thought he was.
The only one. Yeah. I got to hang out with Chuck a little bit at the NRA show. He's good people, man. He is. He's good people. Even to this day.
Oh, at the Glock booth?
Yeah, at the Glock booth. I get sidetracked here. All right. Everybody understands Delta is they're responsible for hostage rescue for the planet. They are the global force for hostage rescue. Attacks at embassies, things like that. That's who they're going to call, unless it's a hostage situation on a ship that's underway. If the ship is moving, then that mission goes exclusively to Dev Group, SEAL Team 6. Now, it takes a while for the varsity team to get to whatever part of the planet it is. Now, I mentioned parts of the planet because Green Berets are assigned parts of the planet. First group, for example, is responsible for the Orient. So they all have to learn like Mandarin and Korean, languages like that. Seventh group, they're responsible for Central South America. They've got to learn Spanish. Whew, that was rough. 10th group, they're responsible for Europe. So they have to learn Russian, French, German, languages like that. Fifth group, my group, fifth group's responsible for the Middle East, the Horn of Africa, and all the stands. So primarily we had to learn Arabic, Persian. They throw in a couple Russian guys, and we had guys that had to learn French and stuff. But that's my part of the planet that I was responsible for, the CENTCOM AOR. Now, out of each group, you've got so many special forces battalions, you've got these dozens and dozens of A-teams. Each group has one company that's designated as the CIF or CRIF, and they are responsible to do that hostage rescue mission until the varsity team can get there. What it means is their training, even though they still have to stay up on all their other special forces skills, they have that additional mission of direct action hostage rescue. So they get a lot more specialty schools, and but they also get a much bigger budget for training. My company's budget, for example, we would shoot more 5.56 than an entire special forces battalion would. And same thing with 9mm, 40 cal, whatever pistols the guys were carrying at the time. And I say that because we would go Berettas, 1911s, Glocks, basically, and then you've got your choice of what you want to carry from there. Jones, that's your basic explanation of a CIF company, if that makes any sense. Now, we all know Delta doesn't exist. CIF companies don't really exist either. And honestly, guys, I don't give a shit. I don't. I call it apple, orange and orange. So that stuff is chocolate crack.
He asked if he coffee, and I that.
I
But
need
I
my
told
coffee.
him you probably have chocolate covered coffee beans pockets or.
What other questions we got? We got anything on there?
Yeah, it looks like there's a couple.
Rob asked, squared away or not?
Ooh, that's hard.
To square it away.
And why is 7? And then why is fucked up?
No, seventh group is not fucked up.
Thank you for clarifying.
No,
Thanks, Rob.
guys,
Bad question.
Seventh group is not fucked up. Now, here's the deal. Before the towers fell, nobody wanted to go to fifth group. And here's why. Seventh group, you've got tequila, and you've got all the senoritas down south. First group, you've got Thai hookers, and you've got all the beer and alcohol over there. 10th group, Europe, you've got German beer and Polish and Russian prostitutes. 5th group, I had Gatorade and ninjas. That's all I had. Now, in my defense, while nobody wanted to go to 5th group, it is what kept me married, guys, because it allowed me to stay completely 100% faithful to my wife, and it allows me to stay out of trouble. Now, once the towers fell, all of a sudden, where'd everything happen on the towers fell? Let's see, you had the stands, Afghanistan, you had Iraq, you had Somalia, the Horn of Africa, Yemen, all these places. We don't really call them places. There's actually another term. It's a military term. Shitholes. All of these shitholes are all in CENTCOM's AOR. So when the towers fell, that afternoon, my SIF company, we knew we were going to Afghanistan. I had all my desert gear laid out on my driveway, spray painting it shades of dark brown. I got back from the initial invasion of Afghanistan, and we went to the Horn of Africa to hunt targets in Somalia and Yemen. I came back from there for 2 weeks, let my wife wash the laundry, and I went to the initial invasion of Iraq. And then from there, it just, all the deployments kind of blurred together. So eventually they brought in 10th group to replace us, swap out with us. Then they brought in 3rd group to swap out with us. Then they brought in 7th group to swap out with us. But it's still 5th group going back each time. And eventually they let 1st group come and get their CIBs and their combat patch. But pretty well the war was over by then. Not bashing 1st group that bad. But anyway, all the groups do well. You work in the National Guard groups, and the reality is we poke fun at each other, one group better than the other group. But the reality is when you show up at schools, you hang out with the guys, you're still going out down there in Vietnam, you're driving the Yatkin 500, and you're just talking, and the war stories are the same. They really are. It's all good people. Doesn't matter what group you go to, without a doubt.
Okay, so we got selection. Okay, what's the next step? Q course.
Q course. Q course started out with the MOS phase, learning your specialty, and after that they brought everybody together. You did small unit tactics. Then they brought everybody together for Robin Sage. What Robin Sage is now you're a team. They bring everybody in from each group, and they actually parachute you into the back parts of Uwharrie Forest.
I know.
And Pineland. Pineland, the town there, all those people there, they have been doing Robin Sage since Vietnam. Literally, these families, these civilian families have been doing Robin Sage since the 60s and 70s. To this day, I can drive through there, pull some Monopoly money out of my wallet that's got the pine tree on it, the blue money, and I can go into a gas station and buy a pack of cigarettes with it, and the guy he will give me back American change, he'll wink, and I can walk out serious as a heart attack. They take pride in training America's finest. It's great training, a couple weeks long. You parachute in, you got to go link up with your guerrilla chief, who is usually a master sergeant from one of the other groups. He's already a Green Beret. And then all of his guerrillas, they're in the Army, but they're usually like from COSCOM or some support unit. Few Marine support kids sprinkled in there. This does two things. It's giving the regular Army support kids a chance to learn skills, but it's giving you, the Green Beret student who hasn't earned his Green Beret yet, it gives you a group of motivated guerrillas that they're all in uniform, they've all got guns, but they don't know shit about being in the field. You got to win them over, you've got to train them, and then you start doing combat ops with them. And it's long, it's immersive, and you get deep into it. You do. And by the time you're done, you're wore out, but you're ready to walk across the stage. Now, they keep changing the Q course. Sometimes language school is in there. It's mandatory prior before you do other parts. I actually went to language school after I got my Green Beret. Before you went to the unit, you still had to go to language school. And then you've got SEER school and everything else. They change up the pipeline, but it's all still roughly the same parts. Now, language school, the main language school for the military is DLI out in California. It is easy, it's you're learning, it's immersive. Not so much. We don't have that time for you. So we do our language school right there at Fort Bragg. And the language school there at Bragg, it is sunup to 4:30 in the afternoon, sitting in a classroom, listening to your instructor babble all day long. After the first 3 days of learning Egyptian, I wanted to suck start my pistol. Now, why did I have to learn Egyptian instead of modern standard Arabic? Doug, I appreciate you asking, brother. Here's why. Now, you got the different Arab dialects. For example, Iraqi is different than Kuwaiti. Right? One nation would say Iowa for yes, another one would say Nam for yes. I'm just using that as an example. Your Pakistani versus parts of Jordan, different dialects. There are different parts in different countries where the dialects are different. Why do they teach the Green Berets, at least back when I went through? Why did we start with Egyptian? Give them, I think, 4 or 5 minutes to chime in. No, we won't wait that long. They made me learn Egyptian first because even though most Arabs cannot read, the Bedouins cannot read or write modern standard Arabic. They can't read. Most of them can't read. Even though they can't speak modern standard Arabic, it's kind of like Old English to us. All of them, the Saudis, the Jordanians, everybody can understand Egyptian because that's where all their soap operas are filmed. Serious as a heart attack. Serious as a heart attack. So my first trip as a Green Beret, my first FID mission was to Kuwait, and I get there and I start rattling off my best Egyptian. And I got this Kuwaiti major. He's like, Karl, this is Egyptian. Egyptian is a filthy language. It's like, how do you say ghetto slang? We will not speak this with you. All my officers, we know English. You will help us with our English. So I'm like, all right, this is my introduction to 5th group, all right? So I'm going to speak English with these guys. Okay. Add bombs and rockets. Now I wear hearing aids. I've tried to go back, guys, and get back up on my Arabic, but with all the hacking and spitting, and me being as tone deaf as I am, honestly, I let the selector lever on my rifle do most of the speaking. When you get to a new country, and it doesn't matter which part of the country you go to, guys, you got to learn certain key phrases. You need to learn hello. You need to learn thank you. You're welcome. You need to learn the greeting for the day. So you need to learn to say thank you. Important. Now, when it comes to doing close quarters battle, we would learn phrases like, show me your hands, show me your hands, right? Makes sense, right? CQB. Nah, not so much, because they don't respond, and it doesn't matter what he does with his hands, because chances are he can't hear you, because you just explosively breached the door, and he doesn't have any eardrums yet left. So, key terms you need to learn is you need to learn, in whatever local dialect is, you need to learn catch and nice catch. Because here's why. When you come into that room, you need to yell catch, and then you rip off that zipper drill, and then as you're turning to the next point of domination, you say nice catch, and then you move on. That's all you need to learn, guys. Again, talk to them politely with the selector lever on your gun. I've been told I'm not politically correct. It is what it is. It is what it is.
I can't believe someone would tell you that. Can you give me the 10-minute SEER school?
10-minute SEER school. I actually did not do soft SEER school. It was not required for me to go. And here's why. Here's why. I had already been through an Air Force SEER school. I had already been through a 10th Special Forces Group SEER school. And so going to the level C1 at Bragg, they're like,
Is the Air Force SEER school you stay in a Mobile 8 instead of a Best Western?
funny because they actually put me in a wall locker in the ground. So now that said, they're like, Karl, you can go whenever you want. Okay, but I kept putting it off, and all of a sudden my sergeant major, and I was like, let's see, I should go to SEER school. Well, I ended up finally going back to, besides INTAC, but they have like a civilian SEER school, and geared more towards terrorist operations as opposed to your conventional SEER school, where Randy Rawhide Worst was actually an instructor at it. So the survival portion, I grew up as a recon guy doing survival stuff all the time. So anyways, it is what it is. I can't give you that 10 minutes. I give you 10 minutes on each one of those other courses because you don't ever forget any of SEER school. You don't.
Yeah, SEER school stories are always my favorite.
What was the worst thing that you experienced in? Now, hey guys, SEER school is survive, escape,
resistance to interrogation, and evasion. Right. Of the different courses I went to, I did one with the 2nd Infantry Division, and put on by the Air Force there, and 1st Group. And the worst part of it was the actual evasion part. I can handle somebody slapping me in the face. He slapped me in the face all day long. I got that plenty in the clubs before I got married. You know, that's how I met my wife in the club. So I've been slapped hundreds of times. I can take that all day long. But the evasion portion, the ROK Special Forces, the South Korean Special Forces, they're your OP4, and they get a 4-day pass for every SEER student that they catch. So these boys are out there setting up full-blown ambushes and shit. And our small little group, I had again, I'm in my recon platoon. I had a helicopter crew chief with me, and then I had 2 F-16 pilots. F-16 pilots, the major, of course, he wanted to take charge, and I don't trust the wit, so I'm like, all right, I'll work with you, but we're going to do bounding. And we basically fell back a little bit behind these 2 majors because they were not quiet in the woods. And sure enough, they ended up getting rolled up and rolled up hard, like jumped by like 20 ROK Special Forces guys, zip tied, white lights. There was pyro going off. I'm like, I don't know. But anyways, we end up sidetracking, and yeah, I lived out there off of. We found an apple orchard, probably about 2 months before the apples would actually be edible, and that's what I basically lived off of the whole time, which is basically straight dysentery the whole time, bad water, and I still ended up getting rolled up. I could see my final point. There I was. All I had to do was get to that grid right there from one Yama, because that's what they call hills in Korea. I had to get from this Yama down through the valley, get to the other Yama. All I had to do was get through there, and started cutting across. And yeah, my ass got rolled up by the ROK Special Forces guys. I didn't get beat down that bad. They're rough on you, man, because I'm 2 feet taller than these guys. So they got this Napoleon shit going on.
That's awesome.
Good stuff.
Well, good deal.
Had by all.
We got any questions in there, Chad?
What else you got, Chad?
Anything, Chad?
Hey, while they're coming up with a question, I want to give a shout out to all of our patrons and viewers that are here from Tactical Rifleman. We let you guys know last week. I've been promising you guys for 3 weeks that I would come be here with Bobby, and just, you know, shit happens sometimes. So we're glad we finally got together.
Yeah, we got to do another one with that AR build stuff. We had a whole bunch of people asking us about that. AR build.
You know what I like about Tactical Edge of these guys here is not only they build top quality mil-spec stuff, right? Because that's who they're going out to civilians. This is a smaller part of their market here, but they're not just staying with one thing. Matter of fact, this Friday is on Tactical Rifleman. We are going to have Bobby here because I got asked to show my top 5 favorite drills for AKs. So Bobby's going to be on there showing some of the AKs here that they make here at Tactical Edge. I took their AK-74 onto Gunny Time, the TV show. Why? Because they had them. They had all these other AKs, and I was like, you know, if I'm going to a gunfight, I'm gonna bring a gun that I trust, and that's these guys' stuff here. So I love that Tactical Edge. You guys are getting out into other things, 9mm carbines. Eventually, I'm gonna twist Bobby's arm and have him do me a piston upper, just so I can run a can all the time. But it's down the road. It's down the road.
Black Friday. So the 1911. Oh, I can show. We've posted pictures right there.
In that hard case, right behind
that hard
the
case. Grab it.
What is it?
You want to see the Warfighter 1911? I will show it to you really fast. It will be available on Black Friday. The only way you're going to be able to get it, we're only making 25 of them, and so far they're probably all gone. But you are going to have to go yep, you're going to have to go and subscribe to our newsletter on our website, because it'll go out in a newsletter for the link.
Quick peek, then close it up.
Is it right here? That is your Warfighter 1911.
Nice. Got good dovetail, beaver grip on the back. It's got the ramped rear sights for racking off that guy's eye socket. Sexy, dude. That is sexy.
It's super smooth. It's like butter.
External safeties. If God, I wish my Glock had an external safety on it. That'd be sexy gun, man. Can I dry fire it? I'd say I want one, but I'm not a 1911 guy anymore, and I got 4 of them on the wall already, and my wife reminds me I have too many, which I then remind her. That's like having too many pair of shoes. There's no such thing, honey, right? Isn't that what you tell me? So, did he let you touch it yet?
Oh, yeah.
Probably not.
So,
When we interested to hear about some.
Yep, so you can go right to our website. We do an AR-10 as well. We do an 18-inch and we do a 14.5-inch that's pinned to make it 16.5 inches overall. You can go right on our website and check it out.
16.5, does that make it
Legal.
Legal. You don't even have to be.
This is the guy you got to shoot. That's that little guy that I...
Oh, 300 blackout.
300 blackout, little tiny guy. If you go on our Instagram, you will see us shooting that thing full auto today. I'm doing it one-handed. Oh, Willie boy shot it first and he just let go and held it with one hand. I'm like, okay, cool. I'll do the same thing.
He was showing me it on his phone. It's pretty sexy. Pretty sexy.
No ear pro.
Does that really matter? Well, it doesn't have any recoil. It doesn't matter. I'm a man. I can manage recoil. No, guys, honestly, it does. If you can mitigate recoil, you don't always have to be in a good stance, right? Because I can run a 308 all day long and stay with the assaulters in my good stance. But if you start working behind a vehicle, behind barricades, out of the side of a helicopter that's laying on its side, you're not going to get a comfortable position. And the better you can mitigate recoil, the better you can get that next shot on target. And anybody worth shooting once is worth shooting twice. That's a sexy gun right there. Sexy. When are you going to bring it out to shoot it? When are you going to bring it up to the Tactical Rifleman Range Complex?
Whenever.
AKA my backyard.
You just let me know. We will do. We were talking about that today when we were going out to Down Zero. We were like, that was when Chad texted, tonight's going to be epic.
Yeah, I wish I could have you guys come out and shoot more. I do.
Yes, right. When did you
Every
say
Sunday,
Sunday?
2 p.m.
Sunday, 2 p.m.
Every Sunday, 2 p.m. We shoot for a few hours, then we break. We usually grill steaks, and then after that, we might do some night shooting stuff. Because it's still deer season, there's usually a bunch of thermals and Gen 3s mounted on guns out at the shed. So when we're grilling, not that the feeder in the corner of the range has got corn in it or anything. But,
For the squirrels.
Gotta
Squirrels,
keep the
exactly. I
squirrels
got
happy.
turkeys out there, everything.
Good deal. We got any questions?
Next time we're going to use the big shotgun.
How does a Green Beret become the master sniper, assaulter, etc. for his company? No, Rob, that's an excellent question. Here's how you do it. I started off being the one of the sniper cell leaders for my company. We had 3 troops at the time, which meant 3 sniper teams, each one with 3 sniper cells. So out of those 9, you got to build a name for yourself. You got to be the best, and you do. You got to do that, and that doesn't mean spotlighting. It doesn't mean trying to show off in front of the commander. It means doing the right thing, practicing more than everybody else, being more tactically sound, and just having a great team, which I had. And you make a name for yourself, and the company commander, the company sergeant major say, hey, he's going to be our master sniper. Then they pick the master assaulter, and then they pick the master breacher. It's not up to you. Some troops, each troop will have their own master assaulter, master breacher, obviously. And then you have your senior sniper, but pretty much for the company, they decide who it is. And if you're not it, if they pick somebody else, then he's the guy you should be listening to. We can't all be number one. You can't all be number one. Eric is here. I thought about it while I was pulling up here. I don't have my coffee cup with me, but the reality is it's already, we're coming up on 8 o'clock? Well past 8 o'clock, and I am taking my beautiful bride out to dinner. I'm going to get her a steak and hopefully some tequila. I'm driving, so it'll be her drinking, and then we're going back to the Erickson compound. So I've got a long drive. I don't believe in drinking and driving. So no alcohol for me. I'm going to save the coffee for tomorrow morning. Erica, I got about a 1/4 pound of chocolate-covered espresso beans left. She is the lovely person that hooks us up with these chocolate-covered espresso beans. So, and I really don't want to get into the ones in my red bag of woe. So, like you guys don't keep chocolate-covered espresso beans in your bug out bags. Liars. Next you're going to tell me you don't try fire on the neighbor's kids. You guys are so full of shit. So full of shit.
Super guilty.
I'm joking. God, people take me so serious.
All right, guys. You guys got anything else for us? We'll stay on here for a couple minutes if you guys got some more questions. If not...
Thanks for putting this together. Good live stream. And it never crashed at all.
Never, not one time.
So it's not Chad's fault. You see that. It's not Chad's fault.
Chad's actually spoiled right now. He's got 2 monitors in front. If you guys could see this, he's sitting back in the chair. He's got 2 computers. He's watching 2. He's loving it.
We even got a crotch cam.
Crotch cam. Switch to crotch cam for a second. Switch to crotch cam.
You ready for this?
There's a couch.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, it's going to go right to the couch.
Switch to crotch cam. It's so full.
Didn't work.
Didn't work.
Hey, look. I'm here.
Crotch cam.
Oh God. See now.
You
all
gonna make me
that
shake my junk again?
Yep.
Crotch cam. Crotch cam.
In focus, all nice.
Great show tonight, fellas.
I also have
bulletproof implant. Guys, there's just some stuff you should only share with the patrons, not with the rest of the internet. Yeah, you're more than welcome to the show, Randy Rawhide Worse than everybody else at the next Patreon class in October.
Pixar didn't happen.
Not even in focus, Chad.
I know. What is this?
I don't. That is.
How am I possibly supposed to have a professional crotch cam?
All right, guys, we will see you guys on here next week. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure you share this, subscribe if you don't subscribe, and make sure if you guys are not following Karl over at Tactical Rifleman, make sure you guys go do that as well. Hope you guys have a good night.
Take care.